What would you do? If you could control the price of money itself, not paper money, not digital numbers, but real money, the kind kings fought wars over, the kind that built and toppled empires. Now, imagine two brothers from Texas who thought they could do exactly that. In the late 1970s, they tried to buy so much silver that they could, quite literally, corner the global market. For a brief, shining moment, they almost did. Silver prices exploded from under $2 to nearly $50. The world panicked. Billionaires called emergency meetings. Governments intervened, and the day silver crashed became known simply as Silver Thursday. But why did two men believe they could own the world's silver? And how did a simple bet against inflation turn into one of the greatest financial meltdowns in American history? This is the story of the Hunt brothers' silver squeezer, tale of wealth, obsession, and the illusion of control. To understand how this happened, we need to rewind to the 1970s era, defined by chaos and uncertainty. The US dollar had just lost its anchor to gold. President Nixon had closed the gold window, ending the system that had tied currencies to gold for decades. For the first time, paper money was backed by nothing but fathonda. Faith walled that faith was cracking. Inflation surged, oil prices quadrupled. The stock market crashed for wealthy Americans who distrusted the government. The message was clear: your money is no longer safe. Among them were Nelson Bunker Hunt and William Herbert Hunt, heirs to one of America's richest oil fortunes. The Hunt family was not just rich, they were Texas rich. Their father, H.L. Hunt, was a legendary oil tycoon who turned a poker game into a massive energy empire. By the time he died, he was one of the richest men on earth. His sons, Bunker and Herbert, inherited not just wealth, but a powerful belief system. H.L. Hunt was fiercely conservative and suspicious of government. He saw inflation, taxation, and paper money as enemies of personal freedom. So when his sons watched the dollar crumble, they didn't just see an economic problem. They saw a betrayal, and they decided to take matters into their own hands. Gold ownership had been restricted for decades. But silver was different. It was legal, tradable, and, in the minds of the Hunts, undervalued. In 1973, silver was trading around $1.50 an ounce. The brothers believed that inflation would send all real assets soaring, and silver was the perfect hedge, so they started buying. Quietly at first, by 1974, they had purchased over 35 million ounces of physical silver, shipping it to private vaults in Switzerland. But the government noticed. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission warned them they might be violating rules and ordered them to back off. So the Hunts changed tactics. If they couldn't corner silver on paper, they'd do it physically. By 1979, inflation in the US hit double digits. The public was terrified. The Hunts saw vindication. Their fears had come true, and their silver bet was paying off. But they wanted more. They began buying silver futures using enormous leverage and teamed up with other wealthy investors, including members of the Saudi royal family. Together, they formed a loose syndicate, a global alliance of billionaires betting on silver. Their strategy was simple: keep buying, drive up the price, and keep taking delivery of the physical metal. By mid-1979, the Hunts and their partners controlled over 100 million ounces of silver, nearly half of the world's deliverable supply. Silver began its climb. $5, $10, $20, $30 an ounce. A new silver rush had gripped America. But every bubble needs air, and every market has limits. By late 1979, the price of silver had gone parabolic. In January 1980, it hit an unbelievable $50 per ounce. The Hunts' combined holdings were valued at nearly $7 billion, but their dominance was built on borrowed money, and the exchanges were getting nervous. The COMEX and the Chicago Board of Trade realized that if the Hunts kept taking delivery, the entire system could collapse. So they changed the rules. In January 1980, they implemented a new regulation known as liquidation only. Traders could sell silver futures, but they could no longer buy new ones. It was like slamming the brakes on a speeding train. The market panicked. Prices stalled, then began to fall. $50, $40, $30, $20. Margin calls flooded in. The hunts had the silver, but not the cash. On March 27, 1980, silver collapsed. That day would forever be known as Silver Thursday. The price plunged from $21 to below $11 in a single day. The Hunt brothers' empire imploded. They owed over $1 billion in margin debt. The once mighty Silver Kings were now begging for help. A consortium of banks, backed by the Fed, agreed to extend a $1.1 billion bailout loan to prevent a broader financial collapse. But the damage was done. The silver bubble had burst. In the months that followed, the Hunts became symbols of excess and folly. Their fortune evaporated. Legal battles mounted. In 1988, Taiwera finet $134 million for market manipulation. By 1989, Bunker Hunt filed for bankruptcy, declaring assets of only $10 million against debts of over $500 million. They'd lost everything, and yet the story didn't end there. Because what the Hunt brothers tried to do wasn't just greed. It was ideology. They believed money should be real, something you can hold. In a strange way, their timing not. Their logic was. Their undoing. The silver crash was more than a financial scandal. It was a message from the system to anyone who dared challenge it. The government, the exchanges, and the banks had all moved together to stop two men from controlling a key commodity. Some saw it as justice. Others saw it as proof that markets weren't truly free. Make no mistake, the rules had changed mid-game. The Hunt brothers didn't just lose their fortune, they lost the narrative. Fast forward to today, different century, different players. Some made patterns. In 2021, a Reddit movement tried to spark a new silver squeeze, believing banks were suppressing prices. For a moment, the price spiked. But, once again, the system absorbed the shock. And beyond silver, the same story repeats in Bitcoin, in meme stocks. Whenever ordinary people try to challenge financial elites, the cycle begins again. Hype, leverage, crash, regulation. It's as if the Hunt brothers saga is playing on repeat. So, what can we learn from this? First, markets can be manipulated, but never controlled. The Hunts thought they could corner silver, but every market is bigger than its players. Second, leverage is a double-edged sword. Borrowed money amplifies profits until it amplifies losses. And third, the system protects itself. When two men threatened global finance, regulators and banks united to stop them. It wasn't fair, but it was effective. There's something poetic about the Hunt brothers' downfall. They didn't cheat or steal. They just believed too strongly in silver, in sound money, and in their own invincibility. And for a moment, they bent the world to their will. But history always rebalances itself. The harder you try to control the system, the more it slips through your fingers. In the end, their story isn't just about silver. It's about hubris. So the next time someone claims they can beat the market, remember the two brothers who tried to buy the moon and wound up buried beneath it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Because history doesn't just repeat itself, rhymes. And somewhere out there, another Hunt is already placing their bet.